100th episode is.
We do. But we let's check if we're live, Dave.
The centenary.
The centenary. Well, I think this is 72, but right, Dave. Let's check we're live. Hello, everybody. If you've apologies, we're a little bit late today. Just sorting out some tech issues because we know we've had some tech issues over the last few.
We're live, and there's the
weeks.
notification. Oh, who's there? There's a man. There's a man on my screen.
There's a. Hopefully, we've got both me and Dave today. I think we are. There we go, Dave. We're there. We're smiling away.
Hang on a minute. Both on camera, both microphones working, internet not fuzzy. Yeah.
Is this really a Tuesday tune-in without any tech issues, right?
That's okay. We've got an hour to go yet, mate. So, at one point, one of us are going to get kicked out. It's all going to go wrong.
Yeah. It'll happen. But hey, guys, if you've joined us, do drop a little comment just to see who's here. Let's have a look what we got. We got Mona, we got Karen. God, it's like a training weekend already, isn't it? We got Scott, Shona, Jane, Tina, Diane. Great to see you, Diane. Dave, Jim, Marky V's back. Rebecca, Sital. Great to see some of the regulars, the die-hard Tuesday tuners are on. Mark Beecroft. Great to see you in the mountains. Absolutely smashing the Munros in Scotland, mate. Paul Dewhurst. Leah always starts off with that question: how's the knee, Dave?
The knee, yeah. So honestly, it's slow. The progress has slowed down. I'm not, it was week on week getting better and better and better. It's the same as it was last week, to be honest with you.
We should take your how's the knee and edit it all together just so we can see exactly the progress that you're doing.
Yeah, that'd be a fun job. Give that one to Ali, I reckon. And no, it was pretty good. Like, I did another couple of miles yesterday. I did a 3-mile walk, funny enough, with Ramona Usher Hunter, Gaz's lady in waiting. And my knee felt really weird and floppy. Like from the knee down, it was just like, just like disconnected. And that's just apparently the underdeveloped muscles in and around the knee. So at the moment, there's a lot of squats happening, a lot of leg extensions, gentle. And by the way, I don't want you to think like, not Ivan Drago and Rocky IV levels of training. Very gentle, I'm learning to walk again levels of training. Yeah.
No, mate, great to see you. You're on the mend. You're battling on.
Oh, aloha. Rachel from Hawaii is back as well.
Hey,
Isn't it crazy we have people listening from Hawaii?
I know. I was thinking, what's the time there? I'm just trying to kind of work it out in my mind what sort of time it is all the way in Hawaii. Because I'm trying to think, does it go all the way around? Because it's probably quite early, isn't it? I reckon. Rachel, what time is it? Where you are? What time is it where you are? But right, whilst we're waiting for that, obviously welcome today. Going to talk a little bit about managing health at altitude. We discussed it a long time ago. I think maybe 7, 8, 9 months ago, something like that. And we thought, let's look at it again, because as we do start to get out on these trips, like we've had a couple of training weekends. So we had one training weekend. We got one coming later in September. And also as well as we start to run trips again, hopefully real soon. There's going to be those things that you need to manage. Those dodgy knees. The managing your body, your health. In terms of your belly as well, making sure that trying to limit getting a dodgy belly. And then obviously it's the altitude. To worry about as well. And on top of that, is all the pre-existing stuff, because we get people asking, and I think some EverTrekkers who are on here who've had pre-existing illnesses, or conditions, because life happens, doesn't it? And some people get issues with heart or lungs, and maybe some chronic conditions people are managing. And that question comes up then: if I've got that, can I still do this kind of stuff? So we thought we'd chat about that today, Dave, didn't we? And it was a good subject.
Yeah, exactly. Because we've had we've been on the training weekend recently, and obviously things are we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. We had Kim going out and summit in Tupkal. So all of those normal questions we get about people who are wanting to go on a trip, or maybe their trips arriving, sometimes it's even, the mental health aspect of it. A lot of people have some just generalized anxiety about going to a remote part of the world and trekking because they've never done it before. They don't know if they're able to do it. And there's so many. One time I had a conversation with someone and I said, what are you worried about? And their answer was, well, what if I'm just one of those people that can't do it? And I was like, no, specifically, what are you worried about? And they were like, well, that was it. Some people just worry that they're not the type of person who can do it. And I always think that, knowledge dispels fear. So that's the best thing you can do is just educate yourself. And hopefully that's what we're going to do today. Talk a little bit about the problems. I mean, and also the last time we did this live, I had not perfectly good. I had two working knees, so I may have been a bit cocky. So now, brought me down a peg or two, and I can talk about what it's actually like to trek with a bad knee. Not fun.
Now you know, Dave.
Yeah, now I know.
Yeah, that's it is a journey, isn't it? And I know a lot of people who, like obviously some friends of ours and EverTrekkers who, trek to altitude and we have dodgy knees, and they've had to manage it, and but they got through it. Although with painkillers and straps and a couple of swear words on the way, when it doesn't quite work. It happens, doesn't it? And so it's trying to think about all that. And we were thinking about that today. And Dave, where should we start? Where should we start today? What do you think?
I think probably the most asked question is about whether someone's got some sort of physical problem, let's call it knee pain, back pain, something like that, and they're worried that if they book onto a trip, they're going to slow the group down, they're going to be a hindrance, and ultimately they're not going to be able to actually reach, say, Everest Base Camp or get to the summit of Kili. And I think the first thing that we always say is that you would be surprised at the level of injuries and chronic and new that we've dealt with, and that we've managed to get people to have success in the mountains. A lot of people, you live with these conditions every day and you have a bit of pain every day, and it starts to narrow your vision. You start to only think about the things you can't do and not the things you can do. And I think when that happens, your world gets smaller and smaller. And also when you're out trekking in the UK with your friends, it's a different type of trekking. So there's a possibility that they might shoot off, and you might be left like holding up the back and stuff like that. But on a high altitude trek, it's a different style of trekking. So if you are nurturing a sore knee, a bad back, if you have to go slower, it's not a problem. If anything, it's going to help you acclimatize. And I think the best thing you can do is just immediately just unload all of that baggage, just get rid of the anxiety, the stress, and the worry about holding people up, and just trek your trek. Just go there and enjoy it, be part of the team, accept the fact that some people are going to be faster and some people are going to be slower, and go there for you. And I think that's, once you've accepted that and you've unloaded that baggage, you'd be surprised how easy dealing with a sore knee actually is on the trip. It's not that big a problem at all. We have amazing guides and porters that can help carry your bag if you need to. There's poles, there's knee supports, there's all sorts of different stuff that we can do to make things a little bit easier. So I think
Dave, sorry, just to jump in. I think great place to start, because it is something that we get asked, isn't it, about like, okay, if I've got these issues, or I'm dealing with something maybe internally as well, will this kind of affect the journey of others, and will it affect the group, and will it hold me back? Will it stop me from doing it? They're all valid questions. And I think, Dave, you had some good points there around, you do have to trek your own trek, and I know we've mentioned this numerous times, but just to hit it home again, and just focus on your own journey. Like even on the training weekend, we had some people there who were carrying a few injuries and maybe a few dealing with some medical stuff, and but we all we're all trekking together, and we wait for the people, and then we move on once everyone's ready. And I think if that's like something that's playing on your mind, it's valid, because we all think that, when I slow people down, and I don't want to be that person, but just from us to you, it really is different when you're on these couple of trips, and when you see that, and then obviously the bonding that goes on, because when people, they're nice people on these trips, when you see someone who's a bit slower than you or something, you kind of hang back and you're just chatting with them, and you get to know them, and next thing you know, you're best mates. And you're the person that's, okay, we're going to be at the back now, we're going to be the cool guys at the back, or the cool girls at the back, and base camp pace all the way. Is for me anyway, and I know, and it works to altitude. I know, when you're doing your training, and we're quite competitive people, and human beings aren't they? We can, especially if we're Brits, or I'm not sure about Hawaiians or the Aussies guys, but we can be sometimes quite competitive, and that can creep in But when you're altitude, you just need to put that competitiveness down a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's not about that. It's about getting there.
Can anyone?
Because I speak every week.
Yeah, I'm still there, mate. Are you still there? I think whenever it freezes, we think the other one's frozen. Yeah. So only the viewers can tell it. Who's frozen? Andy, you frozen apparently. Is he back yet?
Okay.
Okay, you're blurry but back. Another thing that you might struggle with is obviously your eyesight, and things may look like Andy does now. But as long as you're able to put one foot in front of the other, that'd be fine. Ramona's actually come up with a good point, and we should mention Ramona actually because she's. I think she'd find it amusing if I said has a litany of certain problems that she's overcome and heroically overcome. Actually, lesser people would have sort of given up. But Ramona keeps pushing on and keeps signing up for these things, and so all the props to her. But obviously, Ramona's had certain heart conditions, and obviously along there, she's mentioned PTSD and some anxiety issues and stuff. But she's found that those people who go there with those types of issues tend to be the most compassionate and the most caring. And I think probably once you've been through the shizer, you can see it in other people and know when they're struggling. And one of the things I always say, like, we've got some super fit people and super strong people. Brian springs to mind and other really strong guys, and our bald Yeti John. But actually, I encourage those people, to hang at the back and help the other guys as well, because that's the sort of atmosphere that we like to foster, is the team. You will get certain members that fly off and certain members that are at the back, but generally speaking, if we're all helping each other, there's no reason why we can't all make it and have an awesome time. And I'm just trying to think of what other sort of health conditions could we have. So looking at I tell you what, a really good one is, and Diane might actually be there for this, is if you have any sort of dietary requirements. Really important for staying healthy when you're over there is eating the right food. Now, this comes in twofold when you're there, and because not only do you have to eat whatever, factor in your intolerances, so whether you're celiac, gluten, wheat, all that sort of stuff, or if you're a vegetarian or vegan, allergies, and then you also have to factor in that we don't recommend, particularly in Everest Base Camp and in Nepal, you eat everything on the menu, because they will be serving things like meat and things like that you really perhaps should avoid. But yeah. And actually, Shona there, the queen of dietary issues.
We should just get Shona on here and say, right, talk about your trip, Shona. I know you wrote that a really good blog, actually, Shona, didn't you? Probably over 6 months ago now. Lauren, I know you're on the comments today. Can you post a link of that article on here? That would be wicked, because I think anyone that's having it's got those things and has to manage certain dietary requirements, it can be challenging, and sometimes it means that obviously your menu is quite limited. We've seen that like on the training weekend with Diane, it's very limited in terms of what you can eat sometimes. And I think one thing we learned over the last few years, and having conversations with EverTrekkers, is that sometimes it's kind of worth just taking something that you really like on these trips, that can kind of function and keep you going. It's good to have that. If you have got intolerances, we'll obviously manage it and help as much as we can, with the teams, in Nepal, in Tanzania, in Morocco or South America, wherever you go, we'll obviously help as much as we can. But sometimes it's worth obviously trying to help yourself as well in that aspect and bring in some stuff that you can eat regularly, can help. Otherwise, you might be a bit limited. You might get a bit bored of the food, because I know that can happen. I've had that happen.
Yeah.
Because I think if there's any altitude issues I've had, I think the number one that's happened to me is that I lose my appetite. I've never had any of the other issues. Touch wood. There's a lot of wood in the yak. Touch wood. But I certainly get put off my food, and I get a little bit bored sometimes. And you go back to the basics, and I'm eating chips, and especially in Nepal, I'll eat momos, or if I'm in Tanzania, I'll go back and sometimes a spaghetti bolognese on kili, which is like, wow, awesome. I'll have that bit of pizza. And sometimes you need a pick-me-up, don't you? If that's a chocolate bar you can eat, or if you can eat. Or, for instance, on the training weekend, Diane, I forgot what they're called, those little gluten sweets that you had, which were actually amazing.
What they called, Wallace the Worm or something?
Yeah, or something like Willy the
Wallace,
Worm or something like that.
Willy the Worm, or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, Diane, what were they called again? I know we asked this week. Clearly, we need to write this one down. But yeah, they were great, and just a little pick me up if um, if you need some sweets or like a chocolate bar or something to pick you up. Even if you need something like I was going to say Iron Brew. I know we're not in Scotland, but I you know what, I would love a can of Iron Brew on a Walter Worms from Aldi. There we go, Walter Worms.
What did I say? I
I'd love
said
a bit of Iron
Wallace.
Brew. You said Wallace, and then and I said Willie, so Walter. There we go. We're in the
Walter the
middle.
Worm. Yeah.
And yeah, even Shona says then if you go into Nepal, yeah, snacks are the way forward.
Yeah.
Definitely. So yeah, Dave, you're on good points in terms of so managing those things. I think one thing I've seen before that helps as well is that some people take sort of vitamins when they're on these trips because you're in a remote area. You can't get access to the food that you might normally want to eat that has those vitamins. So people are taking supplements and vitamin C and Baroccas. I know people take maybe iron tablets as well if they're, depending on what sort of level they are with their iron. I think is there anything that you would do when you're at altitude, Dave, in terms of supplements?
So yeah, always take a multivit every day, because the food is very samey. Particularly, if you're changing your diet to go there. A lot of vegetarians might find the transition a bit easier because they don't eat meat or anything in their day to day. So for people like myself and you, and that do eat meat, when we go on these trips and we switch to purely vegetarian, we might not be getting immediately all of the supplements we're used to. So yeah, always take a multivit and any supplements. There is actually a multivit out there called Altivit, I think, which is designed for high altitude. So when you go to high altitude, obviously the process of acclimatization will make you deficient in certain areas. And then obviously if you're a vegetarian, you might suddenly find your iron levels dropping and stuff like that. So yeah, this Altivit is pretty good. I think we'll find it and put it out there on a link or something, and at some point.
I've just found it. Yeah, I'll put it in there because actually it's the altitude center. One of our partners do sell it as well. So I'll put the link in the comments, guys, if you want to take a look at that. Now, yeah, I mean, because it's been so long since going to altitude, I've not used that, but I've heard good things about it, and I know the guys at the altitude center shout about it.
Exactly, and it's just I've looked into it, and yeah, it's just a multivit, but it's they've put some science into what's included, what are the multiples of vitamins that go into that, and it's all stuff they found that people generally tend to sort of lose when they go to high altitude. So yeah, and also if you're a meat eater and you really can't bear the idea of going, if you go into EBC on a normal trip 11 days without food, beef jerky, lots of stuff like that, that can be sort of packed up flat and light and take with you, it really does make a difference. I remember one time me and John were looking for snacks around Namche, and we found wasabi coated cuttlefish, but they were tiny little things like that, and yeah, we passed on them, and I got some Skittles instead. But
Skittles, I would have gone for Skittles.
Yeah, but I think obviously check out Shona's blogs. That there's lots of people on the high altitude EverTrekkers group as well. That have been on trips that are perhaps celiac, or they stay away from gluten. One guy I met on Killy wasn't with us, but I was chatting to him, and he had a bag about that big, just full of cola bottles, gluten-free cola bottles. And he said it was about 1.5 kilos of bag space that he took up just for cola bottles, because he said they just made him feel better. He'd have a handful in his pocket, and as he was going along, he would just have one every few hours and just feel better. So lots of things like that.
Well, if it works, it works, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just a shout out to Anne Lamb. Yeah. Morning. First one you listen to live, usually working. Yeah, Anne. Nice to see you on the actual live, mate. But yeah, I hope you're finding them useful. I know you've been part of the community for ages, but yeah, your first one, what's happening? No, I know you obviously been working, haven't you, a lot the last 18 months. I know a lot of you have. Yeah, but great to see you all still here as well. On the live. But yeah, Dave. So okay then. So covered the little niggly injuries. Things about pre-existing then, because a lot of people we've had have maybe said, what happens if, because insurance could be a difficult one, can't it? If you've got pre-existing medical condition, and then you go into altitude, insurance can be a little bit expensive, can't it?
It can, yeah. I've heard really good things about Campbell Irvine. So obviously when you're historically, I know me and you particularly have only pretty much just used say their name, and True Traveler, because
Big Cat, yeah,
yeah.
personally.
But actually, the more people that I've gone with, like my dad, and the more people that I've spoken to that are perhaps, older than myself and maybe have the odd niggly medical issue, they found Campbell Irvine tend to be really, really good, and they do specific policies for Kilimanjaro and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested in checking those guys out. But I think the most important thing, regardless of how much you pay for the policy, is that you get a policy. It is a requirement of our trips that you have one. But the main issue is also be honest with them as well, because I worked in insurance for 15 years, and something that you don't tell them that's not related to the claim can potentially invalidate it. So if I've got a pre-existing condition, say I've got a heart problem, but then, I break my leg and I need a helicopter. If I didn't tell them about the heart problem, it can invalidate the policy, and then they won't cover my helicopter for my leg. So it all does get a bit weird. So I think the main advice that I can give anyone when they're dealing with an insurance company is just be as honest as you can.
Yeah.
And it's better to pay the money because it's a lot cheaper than a helicopter to Kathmandu from Namche, which is a minimum 3,000 US.
Yeah, and I think just look at some of the comments there, Mona. I know you've obviously with your heart, and Shona, you mentioned about Campbell Irvine again covering the pre-existing. So yeah, they can cover you, and as long as they do happy days. But then it's great then, because people of altitude, obviously, I know it's in people at altitude, and then you've got this pre-existing thing in your back of your mind. You're wondering then, okay, because your body is going to be under additional stress, and you've got to be comfortable with that. I know a lot of people are. Mona, I know when you went, you were determined, and you got to Everest Base Camp. Shona, obviously very similar, similar story. I know a lot of EverTrekkers have done that, but I know obviously there's people out there, won't take those risks, and that's fair enough. But it's just good to, we always want to be transparent and talk about this stuff, because you don't want that additional anxiety sort of looming, and especially around anything like a pre-existing condition. Like I got very mild. It comes back every now and again, but I've got asthma, and that was one of the things I was a little bit not fearful, maybe anxious, maybe just worried that how would I perform at altitude, and because asthma, you're thinking, well, my lungs, okay. When you've got lower oxygen, how's my lungs going to get on? So that was in the back of my mind. But then when I went to altitude, and you realize, okay, it is just walking, and your body, does work harder, but you can manage that, just from in terms of the speed you go and how you stay hydrated. And then we go back to what we're talking about today, which is actually looking after yourself. Dave, you mentioned about taking some multivits, and something I do on a regular basis. I definitely need, personally, I wish I ate more fruit. Something I need to work on personally, not at altitude, actually normal. And that goes at altitude. If you can do the right things, and eat the right stuff, while sticking to the basic principles, of going slow, drinking loads of water, you're going to minimize that chance then, of kind of, I mean, you can get unlucky. Anyone can. We've seen it. The healthiest people can get hit by a really bad stomach bug, and you're screwed. And we've had people a day in had to turn around. Remember Dave, a fact in,
that was terrible.
Because she couldn't keep water. It was just
in and out. It was like she's being flossed with water, basically. Does it in one end and out the other, and that was sad. But they're coming back actually, which is great. But yeah, it can happen. It's one of the reasons why I recommend this little side issue when we're talking about how to protect your health. Well, it's directly related in a way. So people always want to spend extra days in Nepal before they go, say like a week. We recommend put that week at the end of the trip. Those guys came to Nepal, and I think they spent 3 or 4 days before the trip in Kathmandu. So easy to pick up a touch of the Delhi belly in Kathmandu. And if you're going to pick it up, better to do it at the end of the trip, when you don't have to go hiking in the Himalayas. When you can just sit in the hotel and go to a pharmacy and go to the toilet whenever you need to. So I think, not having a huge amount of time before is perhaps advisable. Put it on the end of the trip. It just makes it a bit easier. I know that from personal experience. Where remember, and I actually no, well, you weren't there with me, were you? in October 2019, the last time I went to EBC, and I caught a parasite, but I think I caught it in Lukla on the way back. In one of the I think that's where I got it, because I was ill in Kathmandu the next morning. So I think it must have been like, and it was
Nepalese napalm, was it?
The Nepalese napalm, mate. Yeah, it was the single worst flight home that I have ever taken, and yeah, awesome.
But was your best friend, much like Rebecca, as she's put in there. Just to cover off a couple of comments. Obviously, we'll definitely come through and answer some of the questions, guys. But yeah, Jamie Brown just mentioned there about hi Andy. I'm the same, got asthma myself, a little anxious, wondering how I'll get on. And yeah, it's certainly something that you as long as it's controlled, Jamie. Like I take steroids every day, and then I have the blue inhaler just in case I get in any difficulty, which can, I don't know if you've had asthma, it can happen walking up the stairs. It can happen, just when you're on the toilet. It's weird. Most of the time, it can be induced by, for me, it's.
It can happen on the toilet.
It can.
It can be pretty extreme.
It's exhausting on the bloody toilet, especially if you've got Nepalese napalm, and then you're like,
I was just thinking, actually, you're probably right. A Gorek chef, mind I.
Exactly. Yeah, your body's under a bit of stress. It can happen, but I suppose the point is, and Jamie, just to kind of cover it off, as long as it's managed at sea level, it can be managed at altitude. It might mean you're slowing down a little bit, just catch your breath. But it's just the same. If you're going up a steep hill at sea level, you're going to slow down, aren't you? I mean, I know there's some nutters out there and run the whole way up, but if you're going to slow down as you go up a hill, treat the same as when you're altitude when it comes to asthma or anything. Just go slower. If you found that you feel like you're overexerting yourself and it's just become a bit too much, just take it easy. Just stop, have a look around, take some pictures, have a little drink of water, chat to one of the people you're trekking with, say hello to one of the locals. Just take your time, and because the most important thing is about you getting there safely and back again, so you can have something to remember the rest of your life. But yeah, Jamie, I can understand the anxiety around it. But we did do, because I know I'm going into a little bit of detail, we did do a whole live just about asthma, actually. I think it was called Take My Breath Away. Little play on words. Have a little look at that. And I'll tell you what, Lauren, if you can find that episode, I think, because it should be a link on Facebook, put it in the comments just for Jamie. I think it'd be really helpful and useful just to see us talk about it a bit more in depth. But I hope that helps.
Awesome. I've just noticed, Rachel, you said a little nervous about your chronic migraines when your symptoms were almost identical to altitude sickness. So, one of those. That's one of those little tricky things. That's a lot of. That's part of why we rely on the guide's expertise. So there are a lot of conditions, particularly anxiety attacks and things like that. People get really nervous about. If you're prone to anxiety and you go to altitude and you start to maybe have a little headache, and then you have anxiety about that headache, it can exacerbate itself. And obviously those symptoms are almost exactly like altitude. That's why we have the guides that we have, because they'll be able to, not just, go by your symptoms, but also what, the oximeter on your finger, and they piece together lots of different symptoms. So what have you drank in the last 24 hours? How fast have you been going? When did the symptoms come on? Where does your head hurt? What's your oxygen levels like? And they piece it all together. In Hawaii, though, you should be able to pre-acclimatize quite well. I'm pretty sure, what's it, Mauna Kea is about 4,000 meters, I believe. So if you're able to get up there pretty good and hang around up there and come down and go back up and climb Mauna Kea a few times, that might be a ridiculous statement. I don't know what that mountain's like, but that would be really good for acclimatizing, getting up to around 4,000 meters. So very lucky, I think, to be where you are.
4,000 meters, we start doing trips in Hawaii.
I think I'll be.
That sounds like a great test pilot trip, doesn't it?
Yeah. Do you mind if I go on that one, and is that okay? Rachel, can you hook us up with some a good hotel recommendations in Hawaii? Because I think we'll do an EverTrek Hawaii trip. And do you know what? I bet you any money that would sell it. Sell like hotcakes. That would. I tell you.
I think there'd be more time spent on the beach than on the mountain, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, Karen's up for it. Fab idea. Yeah. I think we should have
there from Scotland.
Do you know? I think me, Karen, Rebecca, Butterflies and Bees, and all the other knee folk, we need to get together and have an EverTrekkers knee weekend. A good knees up in Hawaii.
Nice.
You're welcome as well, and as well. I know you're not got bad knees, but wouldn't be the same.
I can pretend.
Yeah. Go mountain biking, mate. You'll sort it. He'll soon sort it out for you.
I'll stick to my mountains. But brilliant, yeah. Some really good comments coming through as well, and great to see everyone having the kind of just commenting out loud, say talking out loud, but you know what I mean, just talking about these things, because it's good to just to get these things out there. I think you're talking about any anxieties that you have about stuff. If you've got asthma, if you've got any medical conditions, let's talk about it, because this is where we can help you out a little bit, and or you can just pack that in, and then you could go to Hawaii with Dave.
Yeah.
Best warn the 5-0.
Yeah.
We do.
Lots of people's knees are beginning to hurt. So Laura Otter, her knees suddenly starting to hurt. Yeah. All of a sudden, I think there's going to be lots of people, but
well, yeah. Laura wants to go on safari. Great idea after Killy. Yeah, Laura, if you are booked in with us, sorry, I'm sure you are with Killy. Don't forget, we do some safari trips after the trip, if you're keen. And you should be able to find those in your members area. They should be able to book on to those trips. Any additional info, just drop us a little message, and we can sort that out for you. But right, Dave, I tell you what, I know we've 35 minutes already. Should we answer some of the questions? I know some come in before the live, and then we'll go through and answer some of the questions.
So we had an email in from Gay, who has asked, sorry, we won't be able to see the live. Sorry, Gay, we're going to miss you. But always watch it on YouTube. Nice, that's what's good in it. It's worth even paying, I think, to avoid the ads. Having hiked up Ben Nevis on my own a few weeks ago, your legs were really tight and sore. It took 2 days for them to go back to normal. How can I stop this happening on an 8-day trek to Kilimanjaro? So the first thing I would likely say is that having done Ben Nevis is underestimated in terms of its length and difficulty and stuff like that. I did Ben Nevis, and when I came back down, my legs were screwed for about 3 days. And yeah, a few months after that, I went and climbed Kilimanjaro. The reason being, so 8 days, 7 of the 8 days are nothing like Kilimanjaro in terms of difficulty, length. The altitude makes it a challenge, but you're not going uphill for like 6-7 hours and then downhill for 6-7 hours. That's what makes it difficult there. It's also quite intense because it's quite far to get to the summit and back on Ben Nevis in the time that you do. And then so you're going to be going, there are some longer days and some shorter days, but in terms of time, you're trekking on average about, I would say, between 4.5 to 6.5 hours, I'd say, and isn't it, on the first 7 days? Summit day, that is relatively similar. That's different. There's no way around it. Your legs will be sore after summit in Kilimanjaro. That's a given. But you've only got 1 day left, and so literally you'll get to the summit, and within 24 hours, if your legs are really sore, you can just think to yourself, it'll be 35 degrees in Moshi tomorrow, and that's where I'm going. So
it's a good question though. I mean, because sometimes you're thinking, how can I get rid of this? I think a lot of people who do multi-day trekking, a lot of people who do these trips haven't done multi-day trekking. So that's going up, say, Ben Nevis, and then the day after getting up and doing a similar kind of similar thing, because it is what surprises a lot of people. I think a good thing would be doing Ben Nevis. Maybe pick like a 4 to 6 hour hike that's not going up 1,300 meters, and do 2 of those in a row. And the more practice you get at that, your body knows, that muscle memory. The fitter you are, the more often you're out, you will ache less. Sometimes as well, I know some people, in the fitness world, tend to say about using some supplements like creatine, which improves your recovery. So some people say, if you're out and you're beasting yourself and you take creatine, and again, this is just advice, guys. I say I'm not a PT or anything, but just some things we've heard. It does lessen the muscles and the DOMs and getting those aches, because obviously the creatine can help speed up the recovery. So I'd say anything to lessen it. Yeah, well, there's a few things. So any things like creatine, getting out there and doing some multi-day treks, and then if it aches, you ache. I think sometimes we've Dave, we've been on trips and we haven't, maybe in the 3 or 4 weeks in the build up to a trip, we're so busy that we haven't had much time for training.
Then
next thing you know, we're climbing Kilimanjaro, and then you ache, and then the day after, just when you're hiking, you might ache for the first half hour, but then it'll dissipate, and
Yeah.
then the next day. But then after the the Achilles over, you will feel tired. I think, get used to that. You're gonna ache, especially on summit night. But if you could do more of the things we've talked about, then I think that will help.
100%. I'm just laughing here. I just had to quickly Google who Steve McGarrett is, but there's some awesome comments there. My favorite one is from Karen. Still would though. And
who's Steve McGarrett?
I think he was in Hawaii 5-0.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and I just Googled him, and yeah, he's an attractive man.
Okay. Interesting. I'll use that there or anyone else. Yeah, nice.
Someone has said, so John has asked what snacks do we bring with us in order to keep things going. So to be honest, I'll always bring a mixture of like sweet stuff and then like stuff that I just like, I don't particularly worry about its nutritional value. If it makes me feel happy and it raises my morale, then I'll bring it. And then I'll bring lots of things like, so I tell you what we bring a lot of. I've actually got one on my desk, is these Cliff Bars. See the mini Cliff Bars? These are my favorite, the white chocolate and macadamia ones. I hope Cliff are watching this, because this is like, that movie, The Truman Show, when they're having a normal conversation, all of a sudden she'll go, and this is why I really recommend. But no, these are great. Like these little things like that. I'll have a couple of them in my pockets. I prefer the mini ones. Because I could just wolf one down, and they're plant-based as well, which I've just noticed on the pack. So yeah, use them a lot, and yeah, they seem to be the best. I've tried lots of different like protein and energy bars and stuff like that, and those ones seem to be the ones that I can eat the most of.
Yeah.
Some of them you put them in the mouth and you need a gallon of water just to get rid of the dry mouth. But
some of them are, aren't they? I know Cliff's quite nice, but and if whilst talking about Cliff Bars, we're at the Keswick Mountain Festival next week, and Cliff have been kind enough to send us quite a few of these Cliff Bars, and you can get one of them for free because there'll be loads. We're giving them out because Cliff have decided, and they were like, we can become partners, and so they've sent us quite a few freebies, and we'll be giving out literally hundreds of them at Keswick Mountain Festival, as well as a bunch of other stuff. People who are coming to visit us at the show. Keswick Mountain Festival, we're there from next Friday, or we're there all weekend. And if you haven't been to Keswick Mountain Festival, it is awesome. Bit of entertainment, bit of music, a few beers, but there's heaps to do like throughout the day. They've got some some trail runs. If you're into that, you've got some swimming stuff. You've also, obviously, because you're in the Lake District, all the hiking around it. You can do some self-guided stuff. But yeah, if you can get up there, it's just some great routes. There are some mountain guides running trips that I think you have to pay additional stuff for. We'll be catching up with them separately, but yeah, definitely get up there. I think Lauren's just put the link if you wanted to grab yourself a ticket, because it'd be great to meet you and chat to you, and we can do a Tuesday tune in live. That'd be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, awesome. And I don't think they're gluten-free because they contain wheat. And I learned on the weekend that gluten is wheat. On the training weekend, never really knew what gluten was before that. Someone told me that if I eat something and it's tasty, it's got gluten in it. But yeah, so
it's like the glue. I remember Diane was telling me it does what it sounds, which is like the glue that keeps everything together in a lot of different types of food. But I know, obviously, with the gluten intolerance and stuff, they've used other stuff. And I'm just going off. Diane, we need to get you on here just to talk about the gluten stuff because of your knowledge around it.
Yeah.
But right, Dave. Yeah. What other questions we got, mate?
Okay, looking at this, someone has said, and I don't know who this is. Show me the Yeti. I think I'm getting it wrong. Don't understand what that means. Is that
the Betty?
The rock and roll one. You mean that one? What's that called?
That's a shaka.
A shaka.
It's a shaka. It means like hang loose.
Free.
It's from Hawaii.
Yeah.
Because and I'm sure it's used very much in the surfing world and the diving world.
Yeah.
And that has become one of our so a lot of people will be doing this, which is more of a rock thing. So if you wanted to do this, which is the little finger and the thumb, and almost like your sort of telephone, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the Yeti. They call it the Yeti now.
Yeah, the Yeti. Yeah. So Marky V has asked, well he remembers, best waterproof jackets for the Himalaya. So like I'm pretty sure I saw a big chain of comments about that as well. So hopefully you've got some good advice from the community. But personally, I think the waterproof jacket. So there is some truth in the more money you spend on it, the better they'll be. Like for instance, I've bought cheaper waterproof jackets. I had a cheap Rab or North Face one, and it let more water in than it kept out. It was amazing. Remember, and I wore it when we went canoeing one time, and it was terrible. And then I've bought more expensive ones, and they tend to be, if not as waterproof, they stay waterproof for longer. So that's another issue, is how long will they stay waterproof before they need reproofing. I would say, so yeah, try and get a really good one. I'm using at the moment the Rab Firewall. I've used a Montaigne Gore-Tex Pro. Andy, I know you've had a Berghaus, couple of Berghauses.
Gore-Tex jackets, yeah. I mean, you've got the big ones. You've got some, Mountain Warehouse, Mountain Hardware do some good ones. You've got the, I'm trying to remember what they're called now. Not Mountain Hardware. What's the other one, Dave?
Mountain Equipment.
Yeah, their Lotse jacket historically has been one of the best over the last 10 years.
Yeah, that's a big performer.
Big performer. You're talking a couple of £100. I think you've got the Berghaus Extreme range. I think it goes from like 6,000 up to like 9 now. I got the 8,000. Not cheap. Talking about £300, but absolute bomb proof. If it's treated well, it's absolutely brilliant. Very breathable as well, because sometimes you can get really good waterproofs, keep the water out, but you just sweat. So it's finding that balance. That's why Gore-Tex is good. Paramo, I think, very expensive, but again, have a different technology to Gore-Tex. They let it get wet, but then you can't feel it. Dave, I know you're a big Paramo fan.
Yeah, I love Paramo. Yeah,
Wales loves Paramo.
Well, he was the guy that introduced me to Paramo, because we were all wearing our like shell Gore-Tex materials, and he had the Paramo jacket, and it looked soaked, but he was totally dry underneath. And they are. And the best thing I like about them is they are more of a soft shell, because so you don't get that deafening rustle, when you're wearing your hood and everything like that. So yeah, really big time for Paramo. I know one of the guys, I can't remember who it was on the last live, said he ordered some trousers and they were fantastic as well. So yeah, I would say just as important as the money you spend on one is how well you look after it as well, Mark. So if you do go out and it gets absolutely drenched and a bit muddy, take it home, clean it and reproof it. If you get into the habit of doing that on a regular basis, it'll last much longer. If you just go out and wear it every day, get it soaked, take it home, throw it in the cupboard, do it again, you'll knock years off the life of it and stuff like that.
Wow, Mark Beecroft just put some £600 Alpha SV. Wow, I have to try that one.
Oh, the Arc'teryx stuff, yeah,
that's
normally crazy expensive, really good. But yeah, if you Sports Pursuit, by the way, is really good. I've bought a lot of my Merino stuff off Sports Pursuit. Yeah, awesome.
It is really good, isn't it? Rachel's put no tongue in Hawaii. That's Maori. Yes, that's right. Basically, ever since started EverTrek, by the way, and actually probably since I was about 18 or 19, I've always done that on any of my pictures, and people hate me for it. I'm at a wedding and I'll do that, and everyone's like, "Do you put your tongue away?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's but yeah, it's for my time spent in New Zealand actually. And it sort of started all the way from there, and I suppose that's how it started. Just to finish the story, because everyone talking about tongues, and I think Karen mentioned what about the tongue. I hope we're talking about this, Karen. But yeah, that's where it originated from, and then obviously when I started EverTrek, and then all the pictures I've ever done, and all the videos, I will still do that. Yeah, a little bit of Maori, a little bit of Hawaiian, sprinkled with a bit of Welsh as well. So yeah, there you go. Bit of a mix there.
Awesome.
Right, Dave. Yeah, we got more questions. Let's have a little look. Mark. Okay, yeah. So we got Gavin Skevington. Actually, a good question. Obviously, his biggest worry is little man. So I think he's taking obviously one of his children. You'll be 13 when you go. Don't want us to be the annoyance to anyone on the trek. The fact that everyone was there for the same reason, I hope, will mean it's not that way. Yeah. I mean, having seen groups with children, essentially under 18, it can be a challenge. But what I found is, the kids perform really well, and you'd be surprised because it's just walking. Just keep an eye on them. If there's any kind of issues with any headaches and things, obviously just to communicate that to yourself. But yeah, I wouldn't worry necessarily about slowing you down, because we got such a lot. It's not just the guide. You have assistant guides. We've got the porters. So if you need to go a bit slower, that's fine. You go as fast as you want to go. Don't feel like you're getting pulled or rushed at all, because we don't want that to happen, because everyone acclimatizes at their own rate. We've had people before, historically, actually, my sister who came in September 2018. It feels like a long time ago now, almost 3 years. But yeah, she finished. She arrived, and because there were some delays because of weather, she arrived in Namche, which is day 2 on the Everest Base Camp trip, and it was about like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the evening, about an hour or maybe 2 hours after some people. But you know what? She was the best acclimatized because she took her time. So it has its advantages. So yeah, I wouldn't. Obviously, Gavin, I totally understand, and you want to try. I hope alleviate a little bit of your concern around that, but you'll have a great time, mate. And your guys will look after you. Just lean on them. They're really experienced. Some of them have climbed Everest. Some of them have been to base camp 200-300 times. They know the score when it comes to this kind of stuff. So just lean on them, and you guys will have an amazing time, no doubt.
Awesome.
Right, Dave, what we got next?
Let's have a quick look. So there's a new Ramona. Wow. Ramona. Yeah, there's a new Ramona. So we've got double Ramonas now. So this is Ramona. So I'll either call you Mona or Ra or Ramona. You tell me how you like to be known, but at the moment I'll call you I'll call you Ra. So Ra Mona, and nuts allowed. I've seen them generally not allowed on trips because of high risk. Someone could be allergic. To be honest, I've never known it be an issue on our trips. If someone is allergic, it'll be identified early on in the briefing. Yeah. So the guides and the team over there will find that out. And if there is, we'll generally put it out there to the rest of the guys to kind of manage their nut intake appropriately. So some people just can't eat them, in which case it will make sure that doesn't happen. If you have like a severe allergic reaction where you can't even be near one, then we'll make sure the rest of the guys know, and I'm sure there'll be no problems with them accommodating you in that fashion. So yeah, I've never known it be an issue. Anything like that, anything that can seriously affect the health of someone will be taken and put at the priority. So if people have to go without their KP ready salted, then they'll go without their KP ready salted. If you can't even be near them, that's no problem at all. Nice, and as long as you make sure, like, be vocal about it at every opportunity, really, so the guides know, every meal, no nuts, and you can do it like, just make sure they know about it, because you don't want to take any risk, and that's fine.
Nice. Shona asked, am I in the bar today? Yeah, this is my office, Shona. No, it's I've been away on the weekend, so just thought I'd work from home today, so doing another live in the Drunken Yak. Little name of my my little bar on the side of my house. Lockdown project, guys. We all needed one, otherwise I would have gone nuts, right? I wasn't allowed to the mountains. Ryan Cookie Cook. Like the middle name, great middle name. Type 2 diabetic. Take a daily Victoza injection, which doesn't need refrigerating, but will it freeze at altitude? From experience, I've never heard that that medication can freeze at altitude. It's not saying it wouldn't. So I think if you can take precautions or speak to the guide, make precautions that those are insulated in some way, whether that be in the equipment. I'm sure we can sort that out for you. Especially if it doesn't need refrigerating, but we can obviously cover it in enough support that it won't freeze at altitude. I think the only real times it can freeze at altitude, and it depends on the time of year you go in, is that if you're climbing Kalapatar at 4 a.m. in the morning, quite common is for people's kind of water to freeze. The same in Gorakshep, for instance, which is next to Everest Base Camp. Some people leave their bottle of water out overnight, and it'll freeze. They wake up in the morning and they're like, oh geez, it's just got some ice. So what some people do is actually sleep with their drinks. Different idea, but so put this in your sleeping bag so it's next to your body. That way it won't freeze. It's just something that you can do. Maybe if there's a way you can keep that close to your body, then it won't freeze at all. Because we're not going extreme here in terms of top of Everest or anything. But it is, we have to take precautions.
Yeah.
But Ryan Cookie Cook, great name by the way. If you I suppose just drop us a message, mate, and we can we can try and arrange some sort of process that we could do each day then, just to stop that from happening.
Yep. Awesome.
Nice, Dave. I've got another one. Dave Rimington, how are they for fruit? Need to have fresh fix every day. Fruit comes and goes, doesn't it? It's not always available on the trips, right?
Yeah, not always. I mean, every trip that I've been on, I've always had fresh fruit brought out after the meals. But it's not always available because it is local fresh fruit, that sort of, so it depends what season you go. And also I think it depends on the lodges and the guide and what they've managed to do. So it's not an absolute given, but we try and get you, I've never known any of our trips go ahead where there's no fruit at all. There's at least been one occasion where we bought some fresh fruit. But yeah, other than that, most of the time we try and bring, it's like pomegranates are quite popular, bits of apple and mango and things like that. And that was the same on Kiliani, BC. So yeah, I would say if you want fruit, there's usually some about, and our guides do tend to try and get it for you. But it's not a given that it'll be there. But yeah, I love my fruit as well.
Nice.
So Mark Skinner has said, not quite sweets, but will I run into troubles bringing a pouch of protein powder through customs? You watch too many Banged Up Abroad episodes. do you know what? Well, I mean, ultimately, no, because ultimately, I reckon they'll test it and find out that it's protein powder. I suppose the risk that you have, like I watch a lot of the MMA fights now, and they're always getting popped by the anti-doping agencies for a tainted supplement. So the only thing I would worry about is that, I buy a protein powder and it's got some sort of banned steroid in there, so they test it and then you get done for that. But I know people have bought it. I think as long as it's in the tub maybe, or in like a packet that's like labeled and unsealed, at least you can say then, well, I bought it, and that's fine. I doubt you'd have any trouble with that type of thing in Nepal. I'm thinking more about like transferring through like Abu Dhabi or Qatar or somewhere like that, where they have serious strict anti-drug laws. I think in Nepal, they'll likely just slap your hand and take it off you at the worst case scenario. They're much more relaxed.
I was actually interested. I was chatting to James actually recently, and we were talking about he was what would you use it, because he did Kilimanjaro with us last February, and he mentioned about he'd probably take some protein with him next time, some protein powders to have every day, because he's used it in his training recently on the bike, and it's kind of helped him recover quicker, because he's taken it when he's actually when he not long after exercising. Which some people do, don't they? They go to the gym, they're doing some weights, and they take some protein with water, like within like half hour of finishing your gym sesh. And obviously, apparently that's good to help with the muscle growth and muscle recovery.
Yeah.
And he did mention that would be very valuable. Sorry, if you can hear any noise, they're putting up a fence behind. It might go in a minute. So Dave, I'll leave you talk for this one.
Yeah, no worries. Really good little tip there as well. Rachel has asked the question and Mark Beecroft has answered it. Storing water upside down, it means it'll stay drinkable for longer, because the ice forms at the top, which will be the bottom when you turn it the right way up. So you'll have that like layer of ice, drinkable water at the top. So really good advice. I'll be honest with you, not a tip that I've actually thought of before, but I'm going to adopt it now. Interesting question, and has the fence noise stopped now, and because this is one that I think you'd be best to answer. Richard Bagshaw has said, how did you guys start EverTrek? How did you guys get started when you launched EverTrek? Did you stay in your jobs until it grew, or did you just take the plunge and went all in? So a little bit of a EverTrek history answer for you there, and
come back to me after these guys finish.
Okay, yeah, jump in. So so let's have a little look here. So we're hoping to do a so Laura, awesome, jumping through. Dave Rimington from the summit of Ben Nevis today, awesome, mate, wicked. Gavin Skevington, stupid question about first aid kits. I doubt that's the case. Obviously, with your day job, you plan for the worst case scenario with the first aid, and you go out about swiftly. What sort of first aid kits are the porters, guides, and what should you take in addition? So our guys do have a fully comprehensive first aid kit. They're all trained in high altitude first aid specifically. So in their first aid kit, they'll obviously have all the normal stuff, saline, bandages, plasters, all of that stuff. Yeah, and anti-inflammatories, ibuprofen, paracetamol. They also carry Diamox as well. They all have communication devices, so they can get hotels and stuff, hotels, helicopters and stuff, and get you back down safely. In addition, I suppose the only thing that I usually bring in addition is I'll go to maybe Nomad travel clinics and get what we call the Brad Pitt kit, which is the diarrhea kit, and it comes with some medication to ease your stomach, like Imodium, and also some specific antibiotics to treat it as well. And you can get that from most travel clinics, and sometimes they're specific as well as to where you're going and what the most likely form of stomach upset will be. But that's all I bring in addition, and I've never needed anything else, because if they can't be treated on the mountain with an average standard first aid kit, then you need a helicopter basically to get back down. So they cover all the things that you need to keep you going until the moment where the telephone is needed. So yeah, ours are fully comprehensive. Andy, are you able to talk?
I'm ready now. Yeah, they've stopped. They've put up a fence, but yeah. So what was it, Richard? How did you guys get started when you launched EverTrek? Started jobs that grew. Yeah, so it seems like a long time ago now, but yeah. So when I went to Everest Base Camp in early 2016, right at the beginning of 2016, I came back with an idea and put that into action, but I still had a full-time job at the time. It wasn't until probably 18 months later that you got to take the plunge, and I knew that we had lots of customers, and obviously we could afford to run the company, and it was then that because it was just me, and then I brought Dave in, who was actually customer number one. Which is quite awesome. That now he's obviously a huge part of EverTrek, and a big part of the thread and the of EverTrek. And it's it was a bit scary, taking the plunge, but I've never been one to not do that kind of stuff. I knew we had a great experience for people. I also wanted to help the countries we operated in, and I knew that people would come along, and as long as people had a great experience, they'd come with us again. And we've built up this community now over the last few years, and this is part of it. We started doing this during lockdown last year, and it's just been something else that's actually turned out to be amazing, and which is why we keep doing it. It was been a heck of a journey.
Yeah.
And we've only just scratched the surface, mate. So we're still in the playground, as someone said to us before. I think it was Paula Power, which is the playground of life, which is great. But yeah, EverTrek's journey is we shall continue. Right, Dave, a couple more questions, and then we'll finish it. It's been an hour already. Wow.
I know, right, big one. Let's have a look. So Joel Palmer, I struggle with wheat and gluten intolerance. Any suggestions for EBC? Dalbat, national dish in Nepal, pretty much. It's vegetarian. It doesn't have any wheat or anything like that. It's more just like some curried veg, some rice, and a lentil dal. The only thing you might have to avoid is a little poppadom thing that comes with it, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So Dalbat, if in doubt, Dalbat Power 24-hour, no sleep, no shower. So that's all the Nepalese eat. That's all the porters eat every day. Breakfast Dalbat, dinner Dalbat, tea Dalbat. John, the Great Bald Yeti, tried to eat Dalbat every day for an 11-day EBC trip for sort of like lunch and dinner. That would have been 22 Dalbats. I think, to be fair, he did get into around about 9 or 10 Dalbats before he had to break and try something different. But honestly, if you're struggling on EBC to find out what to do, get that. Also, top tip, if you're really, really, really hungry, order the Dalbat, because they always make too much. So anything else you have one of, Dalbat, you can have seconds or thirds, man. It just keeps coming. But one time I ate like a massive portion of Dalbat, really super full. The guy came over and said, "Any more rice?" I said, "No, that's fine." And then he just poured it on anyway, like this mountain of rice. So yeah, awesome.
Yeah, great stuff, Dave. Awesome, mate. I hope you've enjoyed today, everyone. I know we talked a lot of things that could go wrong, and obviously trying to sort of cover off some of the pre-existing conditions and how to manage your health. I hope it's been useful today, especially things around asthma. Worrying sort of how you're going to do, if you're going to slow people down. I hope that's been useful. Over the next couple of weeks, we do have one. We were meant to be today, but not in the office today. But we've got one that we're doing just about equipment, and we can't wait for that. Hoping to do that next Tuesday, just before a couple of days before we head off to Keswick Mountain Festival, which we're really excited about. So yeah, hopefully next week we'll be talking about the equipment, so me and Dave can go about all the stuff that we take on the trip, and that'll be Steve. Hopefully, be doing that next week. Our video guys. So yeah, I'll be using some of the fancy. If you've seen a couple of our episodes at the Altitude Center or the Broken Mountain Rescue, we did. Was it someone said it was like Good Morning Britain coupled with trekking? So yeah, it should be interesting. So that'll be the setup. So yeah, we'll be here. Yeah, and I hope that's helped. Any questions at all, guys, that obviously we haven't covered already today, because we've been an hour now. Yeah, just drop us a little message, info@evertrek.co.uk, or use the messenger on the website. That'll come straight to us. But yeah, Dave, any final words for today?
I'll answer Joel's question. Can you get your kit bags out and show us what you pack? Yes, that's the idea. It'd be interesting, and if you pack and I pack, we don't communicate beforehand, and we'll see what we got different, spot the difference.
Well, mine's going to be heavier.
Yeah, well, Andy's is going to be heavier. Yeah, to be honest as well, we tried this on the training weekend, and Andy spent 2 hours packing his, and I spent 2 minutes.
I couldn't find my keys,
and he couldn't find his keys for the car, which is where the bag was. But no, other than that, yeah, no, great one, guys. Always great to chat, and yeah, we'll see you next Tuesday. Sorry, Andy, that's your line.
That's all right. I was just going to say, lucky we found the main little boutons, just for anyone that's doing bingo, Leah.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, great stuff, guys. Yeah, we will see you next Tuesday.
Awesome. Stay hydrated.
Nice, Dave.